of the top. Cuando la aguilar voladora, when the flying eagle canta canciones del Espíritu de paz, sing spirit of peace. Cuando todos en el círculo, when all in the circle de la Madre Tierra cantan, of Mother Earth sing. El corazón de mi canción de paz. The heart of my song of peace. In mi mente, in my mind, in mi mente, in mi sana mente, in my healing mind. In mi mente sonriente, smiling mind. En mi mente de paz. En mi mente con amor danzante. Dancing with love. El mundo de paz. The peaceful world. A un sitio de esperanza. Hope. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Welcome to Second Sunday Jimmy Poetry. I am your host, Jim Moreno, and we also need to mention the unseen host who's right behind me. This is Mr. Jimmy Collins, and he passed away from sickle cell a few years ago. That is one of his murals up there on the wall, and this is one of his prints that I bought from him when he had his painting studio in Spanish Village over in Balboa Park. And he was a Black Panther back in the day. And he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he would go to cook food for children in Indianapolis that were going to go to school hungry. The Black Panthers, at the height of their power, had 9 cities that were doing that every day. Every school day, they were feeding children that were going to go to school hungry. They fed 15,000 children a day. They also established food programs for people who weren't going to eat. They established clothing programs. They established hospitals, and their reputation or their legacy has been co-opted by the mass media into something that they were not. They had a 10-point plan when they were called the Black Panthers for self-defense, and that was about jobs. That was about creating a better society, not just for Black people, but for all people. And so he taught me how to do this. All people are welcome. All religions are welcome. All colors of skin are welcome. And if you are here today and you didn't know that this is going to be about poetry and you'd like to read today, there's a sign-up list right over there. And we invite you to do that, to sign up and read your poems. But we also have some very seasoned, we have the usual suspects here today that are very seasoned. So I've got some housekeeping to do. The restroom is over here. Please don't use the one on the right. That's storeroom, and that's for employees. The one on the left is a unisex restroom, so go ahead and do that. Please avail yourself to the best deli in La Mesa over here. And poets have 2 poems or 5 minutes. Musicians have 2 songs or 10 minutes. Okay, we'll be doing it that way. If you are on the Zoom, can we give some love to the people on the Zoom? We got people from Texas, we got people from Boston, we got people from Hillcrest. No, that's not Hillcrest, that's North Park or something. I forget where he's from. So I want to welcome, please put your name in the chat room if you're going to lead. And our super tech, who I hope you'll give him some love, Mr. Alfred Williams, is going to make sure that there ain't no Zoom bombers today. And he's going to take care of us on the Zoom. So he'll let me know if you put your name in the chat that you want to read, and we'll add your name to the list. Please, please, please be aware of your 5 minutes if you're a poet. And because we have a sort of an etiquette here, we know that there's people waiting to read. And so we also want to do a shout out for someone who's probably top 10 poets in San Diego. It is Deborah Ramos, who just walked in. Can we give her some love, please? And so I'm so happy she's here.
Oh, you gotta go on stage.
Woo!
Christmas fashion. Hey. Christmas fashion.
Can you find the button on this so I can get this to flash?
Yeah, catch up, Jim.
Would you like to do it? So we're going to start with a special announcement. And could I show some attention, please, and some love for Mr. Alfred Williams? Come on up.
So most of you guys know me as the quote unquote super tech, but in my alternate life, I'm actually a filmmaker. So this is just something I do for the pleasure of your wonderful company, which I enjoy immensely. Next Saturday, December 18th, I'll be showing a number of my films, 3 of my short films at the Mission Hills Hillcrest Library, Public Library, from 12:30 to 3 p.m. And I'd love to have all of you guys come out. And I've enjoyed your work immensely. I'd like you to come and see what I do. So 12:30 to 3 p.m. I'll be showing 3 short films. One is a thriller / film noir called The Last House on Raven Road. One is a horror film about a shape-changing serial killer named Xochipilli, not for the faint of heart. And then the last is a sci-fi comedy called Alien Invasion Now, and that's next Saturday, 12:30 to 3 p.m. at the library on Washington Street. So just wanted to invite all of you out. Thank you very much. Here's the flyer. Oh, good. And then these are the 3 films I'm showing. Raven Road, Xochipilli.
If you're on the second Sunday mailing list, I'll be sending you a flyer. If you're not on the second sailing list, please put your email over on the sign-up sheet, and I'll make sure I add your name so you can see what we're doing. This is the last second Sunday for this year. And I need to say, I'm really see some regular folks that showed up all the time. And I want to say thank you for coming and creating our little village that we have. I really appreciate you a lot. And this has been a really interesting year, but a very difficult year. And you all have helped my sanity. You all have contributed to my definition of what is the America that I want to be in. You are my America. Thank you very much. So we're going to get going. Hold up.
Let's see. No, you do have some.
No, I know who I want to pick. Can we give some love for Nathan Weedmark, who's been here a lot with his music? He's had some really, really hard stuff. His wife Anita lost her license and she's had some heart stuff going on, and she's okay now. And she has her license back and she can drive in safety now. Can we give some love for Anita Weedmark, please? And you helped them with their Liz Fest earlier in the year, because we were the people that made sure they had some contributions for children that wanted music lessons but couldn't afford it. And that's what they did with that money that we raised here and some other places. So Nathan emailed me with a poem that he just wrote, especially for you. So this is Nathan Weedmark.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that warm introduction. Okay, I'm going to be reading at the piano today, trying to combine the two. A prayer from humble human mortal lips. An offered least but earnest, longing heart. Conceive a world like one from mother's hips. Renew our hope. Renew our love. Restart us all. Collective races, tribes, and creeds. We ask for water, ask for air and food for all. For each to know we are our needs and answers. Change our sculpted attitudes, freedom from constant fear and ego, free of poisons we have made, what we have done. Impassioned Christmas wish, impassioned plea. Free us from hatreds, free from knife and gun. Great Spirit, Mother Earth, and Father, Son, within, remind us, teach us, make us one. Thank you. That was a Christmas sonnet in the English sonnet form. Thanks.
Thank you, Nathan. I have a great honor to introduce our next poet who, every time our Revolutionary Poets Brigade shows up, she shows up and she doesn't man the microphone, she graces the microphone. She's a professor at San Diego State, and she's dealing with all of the current issues the best way she can. She's also a musician. And when you hear her play the piano, you can't tell if it's a Nathan Wiedmark or Dolores Fisher. This is Dolores Fisher.
Thank you, Brother Jim. Maybe a little bit longer than 5 minutes, so you can indulge me. Hello, everybody out there in Zoom land. How are you? Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. This poem is an old one, and I thought I'd read it today because I've been thinking about people like Billie Holiday and Lena Horne, and then also thinking of some of the modern contemporaries, one of whom I really love, who's Janelle Monáe.
Oh, yeah.
This is called Billie Holiday. A child enraptured by sonic unfoldings, I sit stereo-centered with big ears. Her voice stings outer edges of my heart, enters in swift piercing into innermost chambers and rests. Billie, silent soul, beaten down, raggedy, crippled, humble, homeless, she, begging simple embrace, wanting endless caress of hands that refuse to pull away from rough, oozing scars. Now adult, embedded in my wrinkly 50 shades of gray, I sit ingesting television images like an almost raisin in the sun. Billie's voice stings edges of my abyss. There's a hole in my soul and I don't know where or how, but it continues to grow. It is autumn from this New Yorker. Billie's tearless plea cries inside song phrases, an empty regenerative shroud bed voice, furnished empty house, freezing, torrid night. 6 days, midnight anguish, feet pace, oral fist bear down, pain, clutch, squeeze the dough of my caged heart for 6 days until a howl rages against her silent, quiet invocation. Singing softly outside consciousness backdrop as if my mind has an oral snapshot root, Billie intones, it's autumn in New York. On the 7th day, I write about Billie Holiday, corporalization of creative children haunted by life pains. Write about wax-winged offspring soaring stratospheric through firmament of ethereal God and crashing. Mediative channels, whirling angst, ministering at portals of alternate realities, unfolding, shaping, transcending, mystic ether through transcendental birth canals. In outer rims of this ever-refracting, collapsible cosmos, I stand and gaze. I stand and gaze. Billie's chi voice rides wild winds, moves unchained, singing, pleading, tearless grief, unrestrained ecstasy, scatting through time. Drawn by her voice last year. I purchased a digital compilation of classic hits. These remains unopened on my CD player till today. Today I caress the cover and I sigh. Unposed publicity promos create a desire to catch a full blaze moon glow blaze in my hands, gaze big-eyed at its glow and brightest daylight. Her voice will not go away. Its whirlwind cry erodes me softly. Oh, New York. I am and always will be an upstate Western New Yorker. Hot apple cider on cool autumn day, homemade soup simmering softly in late afternoon. Birds circle swooping like flock formations through gray mist evenings, and the soft, soft fall of snow. Thick worn old oak tree trunk smiling indulgence at yellow, orange, red, brown leaf dances. Cloudy, hushed still early fall mornings, just before that snow's hallowed reverence begins to engulf the glow of the sun goes dawn and gypsy memory silence that hug you like a happy child. Television energy. Rare documentary footage. Billy stands center stage alone off to the side. Black baby grand piano and its conjure man crafting chordal tapestry in comp time synchronicity. Billy dirges broken phrase love songs. Her innocence a constant desiccation. And gray mist stillborn nascence on artist axis mundi. Crucified consumption. Flayed on faded caprices oak. Pink meat platter of our consumers. Billy, imperfect love, portal, scarred labial birth canal, salivates melodic inflections of asp bitter resolve. Smears lotion of lyrical vocality, then plants a worm within the bone, a Nazi eluding that African conjure time. You can hear the rhythm, the beat. You can hear the sh of the shakers. You can hear it. You can hear it. You can hear it in her voice. You can hear it. A Nazi eluding. Life is pastime for most. Billy's children, for them life is death weight. Death is life permutation. Life is sign. A heavy, thick, sharp eyelash falling on a thin-skinned, hollow cheek. A slashing rush of wind through baby soft forearm hair. Rain, wetting raw nostril flare in sunlight, stinging heat. Life's pregnant art essence and overripe fruit. Desiccating in orchids, in gardens of perfume. God bless these children, these creative children, these Billies. God bless these children. Too light to float, too heavy to sink, too deep to submerge, too infinite to complete, encircle union, too ephemeral to disappear in a reed. Groaning ruach in pure generative form, creativity, sorrow's prey. A terrible legacy within a blessing. Billy, piercing voice woman, rasp, whisper love's dissonant timbral echo. It's autumn in New York. From shadowland of gray black mirror day, colonized wild winds, Dionysian hues. Gasp as Anansi continues to create the web of life. Shine, little darkness light. Oh, shine, shine on languishing cyanotic souls whose only desire is to create. Gestate, Billy, and birth the songs of life.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. I love your beautiful voice. That's a gorgeous combination.
Everybody getting their money's worth?
Yeah.
We have a young couple that asked me about the poetry that came back. I'm glad y'all did. It's good to see you. And whether you're a civilian today and you're just going to listen or you're going to actually get up here and do something, we welcome you. And this is our last one for the year, so I'm glad you guys made it. When you have a professor from Baylor University in Texas that's on your Zoom, you do not want to ignore him, especially if you've heard his poetry. And this young man, he came on a thing with San Diego Writers Inc. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing, the way he writes and how graceful he is, and how he is able to create words that are strung together, that sometimes are soft and flowing like clouds, and sometimes they're a freight train going through your living room. And that's the way he writes. So please welcome Julio Cesar Aguilar.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm going to read 2 short poems, both languages. Nada, sino tu sombra. Nada, sino tu sombra galopando. Va y viene a través de las cortinas translúcidas del pensamiento. Y la atrapo. Y consagro las palabras al silencio de tus manos. A la fatiga. Cavé una fosa en vano para tu luz distante, imperecedera, mas nada, no más la sombra de un fantasma. Nothing, just your shadow. Nothing, just your shadow, galloping. It comes and goes through translucent curtains of thought, and I drop it, and I dedicate some words to the silence of your hands. Oh, exhaustion, I dug a grave in vain for your distant, imperishable light, but nothing, only the shadow of your phantasm. Disertación sobre los felinos. Gatos hay que convocan a la reflexión. Escurridizos ojos en la maleza nocturna refulgiendo. Pasos oblicuos hacia el filo de la verdad. Tanto en su mirada esconde que, bien observado, el gato es el guardián de los secretos que jamás habrán de revelarse. Desde su actitud filosófica, contempla el transcurrir de los ríos cotidianos y sabiamente calla para no desmentir la realidad. Testigo de las horas, vive como si no existiera y cuando muere, deja en el aire oscuro, brotando sobre la tierra, toda una fuente de misterio. A dissertation on felines. There are cats who invite reflection, shifty eyes gleaming through the undergrowth at night, approaching with stealth the knife edge of truth. The cat's gaze hides, it has been observed, so much that he is the keeper of secrets never to be revealed. From his philosophical stance, he contemplates the passing current of daily rivers and wisely holds his tongue so as not to disprove reality. He lives a witness to hours, as if time did not exist. And when he dies, he leaves behind in darkness, sprouting from the earth, a whole wellspring of mystery. Thank you very much.
I told you. Thank you. Can we give him some more love, please? All the way from San Diego to Texas. We send our love for you. So, Joe, raise your hand, please. That's Joe Malash, and he and I are about ready to publish a second book we've been working on for about 6 months. And that young man that just read to you is in the book. And if you are someone who wrote the foreword of the book, or you're in the book, would you raise your hand, please? Raise your hands. Ooh, I almost flipped you off. It was starting to go up. He always makes me do that. 22 poets in this book. It is called the Activist San Diego Poetry Annual. He probably doesn't want me to announce this until it's actually published, but I'm so proud of this. Roger, would you stand up, please? Roger Afan wrote the foreword. And he makes us look much smarter than we are, as we're Vietnam veterans and we weren't too smart. But thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Just want to acknowledge the way you wrote for us. Thank you. And so we're hoping that will be out sometime next year. As Vietnam veterans, we are tired of the hate and the ignorance that's been promoted for too long in this country, the last 4 years. We want to counter the hate and the ignorance. And wherever he is right now, he's smiling because we did that, because that's what the Panthers were about. In spite of what the mass media is saying about the Panthers, that's what they are about. So I think it's time for somebody in the room. And I would like to acknowledge this man. He, for probably 2 millenniums, he taught high school history. And you cannot beat him on anything that's happened in the last 2 millenniums. This is Chris Ernest Nelson.
Oh, and I love trivia. And there's a lot of it in history. In fact, most of it. Ladies and gentlemen, and our friends on Zoom. I'm Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is The Only End. Life is a kind of black hole, a gravity wishing well, a drain vortex where thoughts and deeds are swallowed whole. Life is like an old drawer where all the things you really ever wanted are hidden under your socks and underwear. All of your bad thoughts and your evil deeds are carried away by clever time and an abstract, ambivalent amnesia. Then there is nothing left at the end, at the only end, but the idea that a person is defined by a promise invisible to the senses. Santa Claus is coming to town. Yes, oh, I know that man. He's a twin of mine. Tranquility of winter. He sits on his broad porch, his eyes cast as far as the golden plain stretches all the way to the vague horizon, where the setting sun says goodbye to a drowsy world. As the strolling winter approaches along the weary road, the days grow short as his dreams call his thoughts to follow the blinking sun into darkness. If he could remember clearly all the exercises of love stored in his bending bones, he would stir from his solemn reverie and once again persuade a gentle smile. He alone has stored such things in a pensive treasury of miracles that touch his heart and tease him to remember them as they were in a theater of longings past. The late sun looks him in his falling eyes, and in its last wave goodbye tosses the splashing cap to the evening wind. A foggy mist follows fast after, and together they're lost forever. Smug twilight becomes his last friend, that dear one who knows him best. The call of brazen spring and the heat of lazy summer make way at last for the still tranquility of winter. Thank you very much.
Did everybody see the snow on that last line just falling? Okay, very nice. And I could hear the sound of it hitting as it hit the ground. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your kindness.
How about some more love for Chris Ernest Nelson? And so our next poet is an actual Zen student. Actual. He's somewhere between a 40-year Zen meditator and a bodhisattva. I'm not sure exactly where he is on that, but this man can write. Please welcome John Wessick.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Hi from Boston, everybody. Last month I had not one, but two novels published. I have this theory that to talk to America, you have to speak to America in the language that it speaks, and that language is the action adventure novel. So the Shadow Killers is actually an allegory about the Trump years, and then the follow-on book, The Prague Deception, talks about betrayal and reconciliation. I'll read a little bit of the opening from The Prague Deception. It starts with a massacre. Also, it's I structured it a lot like Citizen Kane, and so those of you who remember the opening of Citizen Kane might find this a little bit familiar. With its peaked roof and onion domed turret, the three-story villa perched atop a grassy hill looked like it belonged in a fairy tale or a nightmare. Concrete steps with steel railing led to what used to be its off-center front door. The Mon 50 remote-controlled mine had demolished that when it projected hundreds of steel bearings into the bodies of the raiding team. A half-dozen dead lay mangled on the blood-stained porch. They'd met their doom before they had time to register surprise. All wore black uniforms, balaclavas, helmets, and bulletproof vests, with the word Policy in gold. The triangular patches with crossed swords, eagle, and a parachute on their sleeves identified them as members of IRNA, the Czech police's elite SWAT team. Inside, more carnage. Two team members lay dead in the entryway, their HK-416 assault rifles by their sides. A third slumped over the railing where the stairs had collapsed. Blood soaked his uniform and dripped, sounding like a ghastly metronome, onto the floor below. Shell casings littered the worn hardwood floor on the second story. A gunman with a long beard lay in a pool of blood on the staircase to the third floor, where a hallway connected three bedrooms. Inside the largest bedroom, a huge man, Anton Gruber, wrapped his hands around CIA officer John Clooney's neck. A gash on Clooney's forehead gushed blood into his eyes, and his clothes were ripped and stained with sweat. As Gruber squeezed, Clooney's face went from red to purple. He drove his forearms into Gruber's elbows and thrust his knee into the big man's groin. Gruber smiled, lifted Clooney off his feet, and tossed him across the room. Clooney landed on a table that splintered under the impact. Desperate to stop Gruber, Clooney scrambled for the Glock 19 pistol in the corner and came up with it raised. There was no banter while Dr. Kilmer and his advisors waited for the technician to set up a secure video feed with the deputy director of operations. Despite numerous tries, the flat panel monitor in the skiff displayed only a test pattern of multicolored rectangles. Okay, try it now, the technician said to his counterpart in the White House over a telephone. Nah, still not getting sync. I'll try rebooting. William Tate sipped cold coffee while looking at the officials sitting around the cramped conference table. The air was stale and smelled of desperation. Dr. Kilmer, newly bald from a round of chemotherapy, occupied himself with cleaning his wire-rimmed glasses. Tate was wise to Kilmer's tricks. His superior affected several mannerisms that allowed him to think before speaking, a useful tactic in espionage. As for his advisors, through decades of bureaucratic knife fights, most had perfected poker faces. They wouldn't give anything away. This was Tate's strategy too. Until he understood the moving pieces, it was best to stay silent and let Dr. Kilmer do the talking. The wait seemed like hours, but in reality, it only took 15 minutes before the DDO's face appeared on the video monitor. He was an odd-looking man who wore his thinning red hair close cropped. And I will leave it at that. I posted links in the chat, which may help some of you, but maybe not so much the people in the room. In any case, there you go. Thanks, everybody.
John, please put in the chat how we might get a hold of some of your books, please. So maybe if there's an email address or a snail mail address or something. And please, I think you've got 2 or 3 that you could put up there. And see, what we do is we support the artists in the community. That was really important to Jimmy, that we be a place where we support. We've had people in here. I bought this, I guess it's out in my car. I bought this this wrap thing that was this lady that was really good with arts and crafts in here. And Chris Manoy has his books over there. If you bought some books in here and they're not on the table, please put your books on the table, because this is about support for the artist community. All right. And if you decide next year, if you decide that you want to come on Zoom, because we're going to keep the Zoom going. And if we're lucky, we'll continue with this genius over here who helps us all the time, Mr. Alfred Williams, next year as well. And so it's really important. Next year, also in January, next month, we're going to go back to supporting Enclave Caracol. We're going to set out some boxes for y'all to bring some canned food. Enclave Caracol feeds the homeless in Tijuana 4 days a week for free. I still have the $84 that we collected from them in 2000 and I think it was January 2020. I still have that $84, and in January we'll be taking that money to them. They feed the homeless 4 days a week for free. And if you look across the border, you see the big arch. If you are at the part of the arch that's the closest to the United States, that is the beginning of Revolution Avenue, where all of the curios shops are and everything. And right next to that is a wax museum. And across the alley from that wax museum is Enclave Caracol. And the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, they have done a couple of readings there. Pilar Aranda Rodriguez and Gerardo Navarro. They also made sure that we also read there. And the reason that the brigade became the San Diego Tijuana Revolutionary Poets Brigade is because we were tired in 2016 of the rhetoric against Mexico that was a bunch of lies about Mexico being a terrible place with terrible people. We know better than that. We could be better than that. So our feature is here, Mr. Mower, and we're going to do about 2 more poets, and then we'll have you come up, sir. But can we give Mr. Mower some, Jay Mower, give him some love. He got a little bit lost, but he's here with us now.
I feel really stupid.
I'm the one with 2 brain cells left from the 70s. You're doing good. You're doing really good. You got 3. So this next poet is one of my sheroes. I fell in love with her writing when I asked her to read with me down at Friendship Park. and someone had a seizure, and they had to take that person to the hospital. And so it was just she and I. So we said, let's just do our own poetry. We'll do a little ceremony to help opening Friendship Park, which is still closed after 600 days. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And she read these poems, and I was like, whoa, I just couldn't believe it. And my opinion, she's one of the top 10 poets here in San Diego, the way she writes. And she will not, again, man the microphone. She will grace the microphone. This is Deborah Ramos.
Hello, people. Hi, Zoom people. Okay. I live downstream. The people say we are all connected, tethered to iPods, cell phones, and ventilators. The healers say we share the same breath, lungs filled with asthma, asbestos, and nicotine. The guardians say we are all warriors, suffering in zoos, steel traps, and SeaWorld. The old ones say, leave the earth how you find it, smothered in parking lots, toxic waste, and oil spills. Ancient wisdom teaches that chi flows through our lives like a river surges down the mountain. I say, too much chi clogs up the pipes, overflows the septic tanks, and browns the naked grass. Too much chi rushes down the storm drains, hurricanes into the ocean, and contaminates that low-cal tuna salad. The people say, if you speak it, it must be so. Mita Koya Oyasin, we are all related. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No, we get one more poem. One more poem. One more.
Let's get her up there again. Encore.
Yeah.
She's coming up.
Well, these are some of the poems I read today at the border. We were down there at Friendship Park today. Okay, I'm gonna read. Educate, agitate, organize. Walls of people, walls of signs, walls of Me Too. Walls of women line up to accuse their perpetrator, to scream out their America. America's humbled masses march through streets with dogs, babies, and wheelchairs. Teaching moments for young girls and their fresh power. Wise crones lead with bloody signs from other wars. Women scarred from abortions, choices, assaults, being less, feeling more. Walls of poetry and poets writing clever verses and tapping out polemics. Walls of chain link separate families and dusty borders that smell like bull rings. Just when I thought there could be no more walls, the Mad King walls in brown children. Our raised voices and clenched fists pound down the mortar and punch through holes.
Yes,
That's it.
Are you ready for our feature?
Yeah.
This road from Abilene, and that's all the energy you have for him. Are you ready for our feature? A regular here since we were at Cafe Cabaret, huh? I think so. Who is a very prodigious writer. He's got, he's going to announce his books over here that he has for sale. Please support him. And he's a favorite with William Harding because of his poems that he submits to the San Diego Poetry Annual every year. and I'm really, really happy he is here. He got a little bit lost, but as a good poet, he called and got help, and he found his way here. This is Jay Mower.
Well, thank you for coming out. I am truly embarrassed, but I don't want to spend any time on that. I do have one full-length poetry book over there for $15, and if you buy that, I will donate $5 to Jim's charity. And there are also 3 chapbooks. Different voices along the way, and light, medium, dark. And these have some of the poems that are in this book, but they're also some of my earlier works, so to speak. And I will mention that Different Voices is one that's about people with mental disorders and the parents and friends who love them. So I did this as a fundraiser for the San Diego Depression Bipolar Support Office. So without further ado, first poem I'm going to read. I am a person who comes from a business background, and I didn't really start writing poetry until I started facilitating for the San Diego Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. So the first poem I'm going to read is kind of about me. If not all of them are about me. But the Eskimo carver selects a walrus tusk, begins to fashion a scrimshaw whale, but as he finishes, a polar bear emerges from the ivory. A man plans his career, begins on the road of commerce, before realizing a poet dwells within his pinstripe suit. Name of my book.
Yes, yes.
When I start a poem, thoughts hiss through my pen, ink flows into words, but my whale often emerges as a bear. One of the first poems I ever got published is one that really is for parents and whose children left the home, empty nesters, and for grandparents. It's called The Sound of Absence. I hear the dog breathe and the walls sigh. Joy and mirth disappear into the woodwork. Peter Rabbit, Dr. Seuss retire to the bookshelf. Kings, queens, jacks, no longer at hand, await the next war in the old desk drawer. Toys and games recover in the oakwood chest. The land of counterpane rests in the linen closet. Disney, no longer omnipresent in their airways, is just part of the memory. The house is quiet and the dog lonesome. And one of the big helps to me has been Chris Benoit, and he also has been kind enough to let me take advantage of writing to some of his artwork. And this, I'm going to pass it around. This is the Blue Dancers. And the Blue Dancers ended up with a lot of other influences. I was supposed to write a poem to a prompt where you use the words from the song. And I thought of the Blue Tango when I saw Chris's drawing, his artwork. And it also took me to Argentina, where Vivian and I had spent a few days. In fact, we were down on the La Boca district, which is the old ship workers housing, and all the houses are painted in bright red and yellow and green. They stole the shipyard paint to paint their houses. And there are also a lot of street buskers around. And of course, the street busker grabbed me and decided to do the tango with me. And she wrapped her fishnet stocking around my back. Yeah, and Vivian was supposed to take a picture. I think Vivian was so excited that she didn't click the picture. But, so anyway, this one is called The Blue Dancer of Buenos Aires. And the epigram is from Amanda Lear. Amanda Lear is a trans dancer, singer. And when I saw the words that she wrote to the Blue Tango, I thought, gee, it's much better than the words of the American version. And her first line, and her lines are throughout this poem, but in my loneliness, I'll always have the Blue Tango. I see a wispy lunula rise in the violet sky. A slight wind whispers through the window, blows a blue dancer out of the picture frame. As she tangos, my room becomes a mass of dark and light blue, red, yellow, orange rectangles, like the houses in La Boca, covered with shipyard paint. She palms my right back pocket, wraps her fishnet stocking coyly around my left leg, swaying to the lowly blue tango. We move past buskers on Calle Caminito to the front of the Bellas Artes al aire libre, more of a storefront than a museum. When you're leaving me, if I let you go, take my heart, as I won't need it anymore. A cheap squeeze box barks and strings alternate. Pizzicato and arco. Musk seeps from her breasts as she moves to the tango and whispers in tempo. I was loving you more than you will know, because I needed you, my darling. We'll take a time out for commercial here while I try to turn the damn page. Completely lost in the moment, colorful houses of La Boca are no longer visible. Vibrant paper mache sculpture, yellow and red pottery disappears. Murals show a path only to La Recoleta, which is the graveyard. Remember how much I loved you and let me go like a blue tango. She stands on the footpath next to a stone tomb and disappears with Ava. Only beautiful lilies remain. I mentioned doing work with the Bipolar Support Alliance, and different voices is something I wrote 10 years ago. And I'm going to read the first voice out of the poem. And it's really something that I really had to come to grips with understanding. And the picture that's on the front of the different voices. Oh, they're back over there. Well, on the front, Chris Benoit had drawn a picture with several boxes with faces in them. And I took that as those are the different voices. And let's think about those people who have diagnoses. We place people in little boxes behind labels, depressive, schizoaffective, bipolar. James, Jill, Jane, look out in their Arctic isolation. Cold and quiet at a cocktail party, eccentric James crosses the Styx and falls into deep depression. Interesting Jill's logic wanders back and forth like the Mississippi as her ideas and risky affairs alarm the Mensa Convention. Spontaneous Jane risks freedom with dangerously unpredictable fingering in shark-infested waters roiling at the Lord and Taylor shop. Is it still James, Jill, or Jane behind those masks? And one night when I was facilitating for the family and friends group, a frustrated mother came up and complained about her son and wouldn't take his meds or wouldn't see a psychiatrist. And she said, oh God, his hallway has no doors. If that's not a prompt, I don't know what is a prompt, okay? So it's called frustration, which you can well imagine. Although he's 23, his hallway has no doors. His piano plays off E. His lift serves no floors. When he decides to go, his lorry has no wheels. His baker needs no dough. His baker serves no meals. He plans no escapes, gives danger not a thought. His salad has no grapes. His movie has no plot. On quixotic quest like Ahab after whale. His mother is hesitant to suggest his train will derail. He's lost in Tennessee, no gas in his tank. His mother hopes he'll come to see. He has only himself to thank. She hopes that one fine night, although his hallway has no doors, he'll recognize his plight and get the help he abhors.
Yes.
Another one also is dealing with problems. There are a series of 4 poems called The Tiger and the Turtle, or Tigress and the Turtle in my book. And the first poem, the man has lost his job, his promotion, he's lost his girlfriend, and he's just at the wood pile whacking wood just to get rid of all that anger. And he goes through the stages of grief until he gets to the 4th poem, which is called New Resolve. And this has an epigram. Back at the woodpile. Oh, I should read the epigram first. Today, I will live in the moment, unless it's unpleasant. And then I will just have a cookie. And that's a quote from the Cookie Monster, of course. Back at the woodpile, I whacked at earlier abandonment. Carolyn Smith rejected my Valentine in grammar school. Whack! Friends let me down at the school election. Only time mends the shattered self, but who enjoys life's slowest days? I can't heal through osmosis. Only axe wax speed up time. So I unfriend her on Facebook, sign up for rage-based Zumba classes with an eye for fresh chicks, eat Thai and watch Downton Abbey, live spoon by spoon, unless a particular sip sucks. Then I'll turn to rum, braised Haagen-Dazs and watch 223 Stooges episode. Focus on my love of mountains, climb to grace at a faster pace, watch shooting stars, shoot cool with buds and orbit Mars. My future may be mysterious to me, a rumor others don't see, but I'll leave all that tattered baggage at the threshold of yesteryear, looking forward to one day when I finally do myself a favor and make the Tigris an obscure footnote in my history of chopping wood. Have you ever noticed that you submitted poems for publication? They always pick the ones with the weirdest words that you can come up with. Well, my weird wood, if I can also get rid of some of these pages here. My strange word for you is Delapod, which is barefoot. In this particular poem, and it is a little obscure and weird, actually got the editor's award in the Acorn Journal at Grossmont College. It was the editor's award poem. It's called Bending Reality. I love the word Nelipot, and it has a solid etymology from the Greek for barefoot. Tired of goofy words, my iPad nods off. I pass kaleidoscope oils that pop off of white studio walls and Nelipot down a spiral staircase where brown, yellow, red, black, and white men dressed in stark penguin attire chauffeur multi-hued taffeta and chiffon across parquet under crystal chandeliers to a big band beat conducted by Glenn Miller's phantasmal baton. I muster enough chutzpah to tango with a Dior draped dish languishing on the sidelines. She ignores my odd attire and performs majestically, sending my senses with Chanel as we summon stares from dancers and musicians alike. Yet the beat continues until I feel a tap on my left shoulder and a lavish Veronica Lake blonde cuts in, airs her Lacombe fragrance, and completes our folk ballet with a horizontal dip, chest to breast, cheek to cheek we linger, and I yearn for more as the chandelier dims and we drift into the land of rainbows. The vanilla with patchouli, deep notes, orange taste of fuchsia lips, supple fabric of her skin, and warmth of her heartbeat pounding my torso, vanquish all inhibitions. Her tresses flow as she melts bloom in my arms, and realities bent beyond human recognition. Then I sense feelings so temporal as that waft of Lacombe vanishes. She fades supreme into the parquet while I float above in the rainbow chandelier. Another poem, this isn't quite as weird. It does have the word capuzza in it, which is Italian for squash. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It appeared in the year of being Love Lost. She flies into a Vesuvian rage so quickly, I don't even recall what unlashed that molten lava. But slam, slam, slam reverberates down the corridor, and an emptiness prisons hallway walls from sunny to shades of lonesome blue. Walking inside the darkening atrium, I realize she's blazing bananas. By the time I climb in my car, I'm convinced that she's kukutsa crazy. My fantasy, she'll get over it soon. I toss her photo down the garbage chute, and mulch reappears. Throw her name into the recycling bin, but it comes back as plastic wrap. Frantic, I mail her love in a hate letter that returns postage due. So I hurl her from Mount Quandary, but she flows back as a gentle breeze. Alone in myself, I miss gentle strokes of her hand, the radiance of her laugh, and a wisp of her Chanel. She chases me down the avenues, pulls me back with gentle tugs, and slithers into my mind, whether I'm gaming, preparing bids, or savoring backyard barbecue ribs. TV tray after TV tray of silence penetrates my mare's nest mind. Loneliness screams that her love will not return to me on a simple spin of fortune's wheel. I wrote a series of poems that were, the first poem was actually a poem to a picture or piece of artist work in the Summation Drastic Art book, which is up in Escondido, published it yearly. And it was a picture of the mangroves, and I wrote to the swamp witch. But I also got a call from a friend of mine who's a poet in Atlanta who wanted some restaurant names in Houston, which I gave him. But when he got back to Atlanta, he said, well, they were fine. But on the way through Louisiana, I got some bad gumbo. So that kind of led to a series of poems that are kind of Dr. Faustus, Madame LeBlanc kind of thing, where the man gives his soul to the devil, or in this case, to the swamp witch. And this is just one of the poems, but about the swamp witch. The swamp witch rides the wind, sings fire from her lips, and flakes of ash rain over me. I seek release from my vow, a removal of the painful curse of my skewered heart. I rattle round root claws, dodge overhanging boughs, and flashes of my foolish vow. She rests in her lair deep within the bayou where gators guard and zombies look out. When she rides the wind, vents venom from her lips, I avoid the skeeters, shun comet cottonmouths, and pray her bad gumbo remains in that rusted old kettle. Okay, one more? Okay, well, I'm going to skip the one that isn't in the book, but it's one that was in Summation. And a lot of people liked it, so I'm going to read it for you. It's called The Music City Blues. I'm lost in a neon sea on this rainy street. The cityscape rises in honky-tonk views. I saunter down Music Row, feeling the blues to words of a country song's soulful beat. Miss the sound of your smile so much, and I yearn for the color of your voice. Now life sings verse in a twang refrain, and tropes dancing through my brain. Mama's golden heart and silver hair can fix just about anything but my shredded heart. And the rust in this old pickup truck, washed in the pain of a purple migraine. I wave at a departing red caboose, feel raging rings of fire under my feet, and see the green eyes of envy as I seem imprisoned in an orange jumpsuit. Let a song carry me through the night, now that you're gone, gone, gone. Forget cheating hearts as I parade my blues across life's canvas, alone, alone, alone. Wet and cold, 3 chords and pain. I so miss the sound of your smile and yearn for the color of your voice. Oh yes, I'm missing you again.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, we're getting some more love too.
Did you still get your money's worth on that one, I hope? So we're gonna continue on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all next year as well. This next young man will tell you a story that has nothing to do with his poem. And I just need to say, this is our second book that we've been doing together, and it's just a pleasure to work with you, man. You're so knowledgeable. He hates this. He hates positive feedback, but I don't care. You're a pleasure to work with, and you always keep it light for me. When I'm calling you up and I'm sweating bullets or whatever, you just always keep it light. Usually he reminds me of how stupid I am, and that's okay too. But I really want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to us putting a little dent in hate and ignorance with this next book. This is Joe Malash.
So, oh, that's good. Yeah, I have to. It's been a while. I'd like to put the record straight. Jim likes to say, you know, that him and I, and it's true, we're not too bright, we're Vietnam vets. But he makes it sound like everyone in the Army isn't too bright or in the military. But if you exclude the officers, there's a lot of bright people in the military. That's just a thought. I've been wanting to say that for years. That was something I never said in the military, though I always wished I had said it. So I'm writing a horror story. It's called The Zombies. It's about a bunch of dead poets who are turned into zombies. And they poetry bomb all the Starbucks across the country. And so they walk in, they start to recite their poems, and their goal is to recite it before all their body parts fall off. So first their ears fall off, then their noses fall off. And soon every Starbucks in the country, all the floors are filled with lips running around like cockroaches reciting Allen Ginsberg. So that has nothing to do with this poem. It's just, when my wife and I would travel and I was driving, I'd tell her stories like that. So one time we go to a poetry reading in San Luis Obispo, and we drove straight that morning. We get there in the evening, I do my reading afterwards. One of the people said to Patsy, they go, how was it driving all the way up there? And of course, I always answer. I said, hey, I just told stories. And they looked at Patsy and said, how was that? And Patsy said it wasn't too bad. And she reached in her pocket and pulled out a pair of ear plugs. That's a secret on how to stay married. I didn't get away with a lot once they passed away. This is called A Blizzard Drove. A blizzard drove through prairie fields and blew under chapel doors. The future knelt with those ordained as winter settled on the church. Who could escape the snow and cold, incense and Latin chants? I would be lying if I said I conjured memories of home to calm my mind and enable me to meditate. During evening prayers, I remember wishing for a vision of Clear Lake, and the brothers thumbing through hymn books reminded me of drum wings from ducks engaging flight. I remember longing to see the shallow hollow where Christina stood, lifting tops of wooden hives. She removed screens among the swarm of bees that grew above her blouse. There's something about the winter wind. When the chanting ended, the church became deathly quiet for a moment. When a gust of wind hit the windows and doors, it startled me. It was then I recalled her apiary, and how I walked through my fear of beers in order to catch a glimpse of her freckles that the breeze exposed when it parted her curly bangs. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Roger, do you have time for one poem before you go?
I can do a quick one.
Roger Apollon, please. Give him some love. New York and San Diego.
Thank you. Bye, tomorrow.
Nice to be back here. This is when I really get to relax. I come back to San Diego after New York, which is sometimes difficult. This is a piece I actually read here when it was written. And now that we've experienced the results of what I'm about to read, you'll see why I wanted to read it again. Given the vote in the Supreme Court recently that we're about to hear the results of in June, where they will probably dishonor the law Roe v. Wade. This is called In Memory of Compassion, Justice, and Honor for Senator Susan Collins. I am your devastating, willful, and intoxicating nightmare. I am the conscience you have displaced, the spy in your house of hypocrisy. When you brush your teeth and glance in the mirror, you'll see me over your shoulder. When you take your morning shower, I'll be holding your towel. When you mocked advice and consent by ignoring facts in favor of political gain, you opened a door too often locked and invited me in. And even though I may be easy to denigrate or deride, I'll still be at work, inserting myself deeper into your psyche, erecting headstones etched with the names of those whose lives will be abused, displaced, or even lost by decisions made in your name, your history, your discharge of duty. Oh, I know you're not alone in this. Your compatriots share the blame. Yours, however, is distinct. You were the critical linchpin, and as such, bear the curse alone, the weight of which I will wield over you all the days and nights you have left on your way to the grave.
Yeah.
Some more love for Roger Apollon, please. Thank you for coming. So Deborah and I were down at the border with this young man right here. His name is Daniel Watman. And I got to call his name out for a shout out. And the Borderfield State Park is one of many parks in California that's been open since June 15th. And there's a little segment, a very small segment of that park that's called the Friendship Park. Anyway, that's what the Border Patrol calls it. And he has a friendship garden there that they bulldozed in 2020. They bulldozed the whole garden. So he raised the stink, and then they, oh, gee, we thought you weren't going to, all that stuff. And so now he's reseeded that. And we were there today because that particular area is not open. And what happens with that particular area is that Mexican families from both sides of the border who are held up by red tape, they go there to see each other. And the Border Patrol will not open that up. And Dan Watman and another man named John have friends of the Friendship Park that meet there regularly. They tend the garden. And today we had a little ceremony that we read poetry, and the idea was to also plant a indigenous plant that he had. And right in the middle of us being together, this Mexican man on the Mexican side climbs the fence on the Mexican side, comes down on the United States side, runs over to the United States fence, goes up that and ends on the other side, and goes over and he touches a bush. And he runs back to the fence, and we're all like, it just happened so fast. And he was so agile and so beautiful, like an acrobat, like a take that, Border Patrol, I'm an acrobat. And just to show him up about how stupid this fence is. And I'm really glad that we were a part of that, to witness that with you. And thank you for all your efforts to help those people see each other. Dan Rotman. He just wants to be a civilian tonight, and you earned it. He's tired. You want to come up to the microphone so we can hear? Come on up.
No more digging tunnels down there either.
Yeah, we tried to plant a plan, and Border Patrol got upset about that. So yeah, we thanks to Jim and Deborah and another poet, Ying, we were able to read poetry, and I invited my friend Ricardo from the Mexican side, and we were able to get within 120 feet of each other. And so he was waving, and we had him on speaker on the phone, and he didn't know it was going to be a poetry reading. So I just asked him if he wanted to say anything, and he tried to remember a poem. He's a very poetic guy. He was saying things like, instead of saying, "Do not approach the fence," he was saying, "Do not approach your dreams." He was just making stuff up. And so he tried to remember this poem, and then he sent it to me afterward. He said, I messed it up, but I wanted to see what it really was. So I'll sort of, it's in Spanish, but I'll try to translate a little bit. It's called Bibliotecas y Jardines, Libraries and Gardens. Los jardines peligran. Gardens are dangerous, como las bibliotecas, like libraries. Cuando, let me see if I can make it bigger. Cuando sus dueños, like libraries, cuando sus dueños mueren. So gardens and libraries are dangerous, or can be dangerous if their owners die. Su fragilidad es mi fuerza. It's their fragility is my strength. Me invade unas mares de pájaros. Una marea de pájaros. I'm invaded by a tide of birds. Un vuelo de las ideas. A flight of ideas que no quieren marchitarse. They don't want to wilt. Cosa de frondosas y de frondas y frescura. Things, fresh things. Penetro la espesura de los libros. I penetrate the thickness of books. Con pie muy firme, with a firm foot. En un bosque de hojas extravío todos los nortes. En un bosque de hojas extravío todos los nortes. Oh, okay. And in a forest of leaves, I lose all direction. En sus meandros y sus follajes, in its wanderings and leaves, encuentro lo que me busca. I find what's looking for me desperately. Desesperadamente. Cosa de pensamientos inmarcesibles. Something that is of non-stop thoughts. I don't know. That's it. That was the poem we read a little bit of today. And it was an interesting experience. I had the idea to plant a native plant like Jim said, and I started to do it, and Border Patrol, there was an agent there. I tried to do it when he wasn't looking, and we were just going to put it in and then leave a little note that said open our garden. And but he saw, and just it was so weird for him, kind of out of his normal duty, I guess, and he just started cussing at me and what the F are you doing, and started and yeah, so but that's good. Yeah, oh, it kind of made a little dent, I think, maybe. So yeah. Thanks.
A little drop in the water.
On the cover of the book that Joe and I are putting together, the Activist San Diego Poetry Annual. Did I say the name right? I'm so tired right now. He's on the cover, Joe and I are on the cover, and another friend of the garden is on the cover. And Joe and I were talking about, well, what are we going to do with the proceeds? We haven't talked about that. We have all these people. What are we going to do? Joe says, why don't we give the proceeds to the Border Angels? I went, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I said, how about we split it between the Border Angels and the Friends of the Friendship Park? He went, Joe goes, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So all the proceeds from the book are going to go to these two service agencies that are trying to help people on both sides of the border. And so we thank you for our role model, you're our hero. And we also thank the Border Angels because we want you guys to have some more funding. Yeah. And so we have another Navy veteran here. And I always thank him for his service. He has a grandson he's got a grandson that's deployed in the Middle East right now. So if you have any kind of positive energy you want to send to his grandson, or if you pray or something like that, please welcome David Legenhurst.
Thank you, Jim. My wife and I raised our grandson Ryan from when he was 1 year old. He's 20 years old. Today is the 3rd month anniversary of his deployment to the Middle East. He was in Kuwait originally. Now he's somewhere in northern Syria. And so he's on our mind constantly. So this is a poem that was written by Chris Mansell, and she titled this, "The Good Soldier." On someone else's place, it seems to him, the land slings distant way out. The dirt is dead. The sky seems twisted. The beat of the stones is wrong. He doesn't know how to say it. There are no words, no opportunity. And anyway, what would you say? That you're a stranger? And this doesn't say it at all. He walks with his weapon through the town, and from time to time, he sees the luscious curl of intimacy, the uncommon, common life. It's dressed differently. He can't understand the language, rasping and gargling. Another time, he'd be an interested tourist. Now, he's a hunter and the hunted. Soon, they say, he'll be free to retreat home. where the earth is vein deep. And when he puts his hand on the ground, you'll feel it beating. But now he can't remember home, though he knows the words well enough. Back paddock, Steve's paddock, the yard. It's just words. But now the imam calls and winds a veil around his senses. And sometimes he thinks he'll never get back to where he belonged. That's Chris Mansell. This was one I wrote 2 years ago when Ryan had Christmas leave. And it's called Boots in the House. Christmas Eve with Boots in the House. Won't get much better than this. Compete for time with all the friends, then those moments filled with bliss. Your heart is full of peace and joy. You have pride beyond belief. The earth is spinning much too fast. Your reunion way too brief. With bonds so strong they can't be broke, don't worry of tomorrow. Today's the day for happiness. Love drives away the sorrow.
Yes, yes.
You've heard his name several times today, people referencing his activities and his book, which over on the table there. I hope he will talk to you about an international gathering that he's putting together of poetry that is going to be here in San Diego. I hope he will tell you about that. But this is a guy who never drinks decaf. This is Chris Vanoy.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I'm trying to start up an international beat poetry festival for November, the second weekend in November. And I need sponsors that'll help me out as far as lodging for the people that come. I'm going to offer them if they can get here, they got a place to stay and a place to eat. We'll be reading Mr. Lawrence Ferlinghetti tonight. Number 9. The one I always read, I always mess it up. I read it just like it's printed tonight. See, it was like this. We waltzed into this place, a couple of fat cats doing an Aztec two-step. And I says, Dad, let's cut. But this dame comes up behind me and says, you and me could really exist. Wow, I says. Only the next day she has bad teeth and really hates poetry. And the second one in here, well, except for the past 2 years, I've read these every Christmas time. And I think that's why the plague came, because I didn't read them. Christmas time I should have. That one, and Christ climbed down from his cross this year. Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran away to where there were no rootless Christmas trees hung with candy canes and breakable stars. Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran to where there were no gilded Christmas trees and no tinsel Christmas trees and no tin foil Christmas trees and no plastic Christmas trees and no gold Christmas trees, and no black Christmas trees, and no powder blue Christmas trees hung with electric candles and encircled by 10 electric trains and clever cornball relatives.
Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran to where no intrepid Bible salesman covered the territory in two-tone Cadillacs, and where no Sears Roebuck creatures complete with plastic babe and manger arrived by parcel post, the babe by special delivery, and where no televised wise men praised Lord Calvert's whiskey. Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran to where no fat, hand-shaking stranger in red flannel suit and fake white beard went around passing himself off as some sort of North Pole saint. Crossing the desert to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, in a Volkswagen sled drawn by rollicking Adirondack reindeer with German names, bearing sacks of humble gifts from Saks Fifth Avenue for everybody's imagined Christ child. Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran away to where there were no Bing Crosby carolers groaned of a white Christmas, and where no Radio City Angels I skated wingless through the winter wonderland into the Jingle Bell heaven daily at 8:30 with midnight mass matinees. Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and softly stole away into some anonymous Mary's womb for the darkest night of everybody's anonymous soul. He awaits again this unimaginable and impossibly immaculate conception of very craziest of second comings.
In juvenile hall on Tuesday, I'm with my kids there, they're all locked up. And I wanted to thank Jay for these prompts. The hallways have no doors, back at the woodpile, that's some bad gumbo. And I want to thank David for the boots in the house. Thank you very much. December 26th starts the celebration of Kwanzaa, which is an African American harvest festival. And the first day of Kwanzaa is called Umoja. And Umoja is a Swahili word that stands for unity. And this lady that's been waiting for a long time to read her poetry has been known as the Kwanzaa poet, but she's also much, much more than that. I've had the pleasure of hearing her read. I had the pleasure of working with her over the Boys and Girls Club and in Canto, because she's really, really, really strong with the youth and helping the youth write. This is Johnny Renee Nelson.
Hi. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes,
ma'am.
All right. Okay. Happy holidays, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here today and to celebrate poetry with you. And I usually just like to show up and listen to all your wonderful poetry and your ideas and your thoughts. But because this is the season of Kwanzaa, I thought that I would share a Kwanzaa poem with you. It's one of my favorite seasons of the year. So this particular poem is called Nguzo Saba, which is the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. First, unity, umoja. Unity means we, you and me, always a part of a greater collectivity, a member of a family, a participant in a community, a duplication of a deity with roots as entrenched as those of a baobab tree. Second, self-determination, kujichagulia, the essence of our Harambe, the right to determine for myself what I am to be. Third, ujima, collective work and responsibility, without which there can be no liberty. We subscribe to the belief that we collectively are responsible for our failures and for our deficiencies, for our accomplishments and our victories, and commit to the struggle to shape our own destiny. The fourth principle is Ujima, cooperative economics, the basis of our prosperity. I buy from you, you buy from me, thereby keeping the money flowing in our community. Shared wealth and resources, the basis of African society. The fifth principle is purpose, Nia, and here it is made perfectly clear that we do not have to go through life wondering why we are here. Our purpose for being here is to help our sisters and our brothers. True greatness never occurs in isolation, but is created in the quality and kinds of relations we experience with others. The sixth principle of Kwanzaa is Kuumba, a self-defining, self-developing, and self-confirming activity. The beauty and benefits we create is our individual legacy. Through creative labor, we make a profound and far-reaching contribution to human history. As doctors, lawyers, engineers, artists, musicians, magicians, poets, whoever we choose to be. Finally, there is faith, Imani, a belief so strong it sustains and nourishes us all year long and empowers us to hold on. These are the 7 values of Kwanzaa, the Nguzo Saba, which reinforce our roots and inspire us with motivation to life's higher pursuits. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Renee. Well, we've done a really good year together. And I wanted to end this year with an honoring poem for my students in juvenile hall. When I went in there on a grant that Bill Harding wrote for me from Poets and Writers magazine, I went into this unit that's down on the border, and I talked to this young man before I started the class. He came in early, and they hadn't seen their parents, they hadn't seen their families for a year. And there was this bitterness in the classroom that I never felt before, because they were really missing their family. And they were told, he told me that the guards are cursing at them, and they're cursing at the guards. And when I was a regular there in 2005 through 2012, that did not happen. So these kids are really suffering. So this is called Palms Up.
Oh.
Friday morning, Halloween, last poetry workshop for the day in Juvie Hall. A staff teacher catches my attention, gives me a small blue stick-in with the name of a student in his cell block. Mohammed in Unit 400 would like to share a few poems and get feedback it requests. So I walk into the bowels of this youth jail. The teens are settling into an early lunch. The goblins of loneliness lurk in the shadows and cracks. The witches of time drag on clocks' second hands. Quicksands of time, secondhand mud, moving at minute hand speed. I find the young poet after crossing 2 electric locked doors. The guard tells me I can stand in the hall and talk with the ward after he unlocks the door. The young black man sits on a mattress with textbooks framing the opaque window. No toilet, no bed frame, no fresh air, no hope in his young face. Styrofoam lunch waiting on his prison bed. And I can't remember him. Which class, which campus, Which time? He reads a breeze through the trees poem, and I shine his words because I'm praying for him. His face so young, and I don't want to know what his crime is. The crime is that it is Halloween, and he is not out in freedom, enjoying being young. I ask him to read the poem again, and it is good. He has a unique stanza form on the page, and I tell him I like his creativity. He reads another poem and then asks me if I like to hear a poem from his favorite book. I say yes, and he produces the collected verse of Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes. I tell him I'm in the Langston Hughes Poetry Circle, and he nods. He reads the poem Little Old Letter after hopping off the bed and moving to the door so I can read with him and help him with words. He tells me he reads this Langston poem over and over. I taste tears when he reads. I never felt so lonesome since I was born black. It feels like he is my son. Angels, black angels, 50 million black angels, 50 million black middle passage angels perch on my shoulder shouting, he is your son. And my jail blue son shows me another book he likes. We talk about poetry. We talk about life. I tell him we are more alike than different. I tell him I wish society wasn't so ignorant. I ask him to hold his palm up, and I hold my palm up next to his and announce, palms up, we are the same color. I ask him to put his palms down, and I hold my palm down next to his. Why does society call attention to palms down differences? I protest when both colors are beautiful. I flip my palm up again, and he mimics my motion. Now we are the same color again. He asked me if I will visit him. I tell him I'll come back next Friday. We shake hands, same colors touching, contrast colors smiling, Langston Hughes approving, racist hate ebbing. Goblins of loneliness surrendering, sands of time flowing. I tell him if he will write in this tiny room, it's going to get bigger. I tell him if he will read in this studio room, it will get bigger. I tell him if he makes this his writing room, he will grow. The room will grow. This poem about a letter that takes a life will change to a poem that gives new life. I ask him what classroom I taught him in. He says, I've never been his teacher, but he heard about me and wanted to meet me. And one more time, poetry performs a miracle. One more time, poetry transforms. And I am humbled in the presence of spirit I don't understand. But I know for sure, spirit waits, poetry spirit waits to dance. Thank you. Happy Bodhi Day, the Buddhist enlightenment. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Thank you. See you next year.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was, yeah.
Great, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna take some of your spirit with me.
We made it. Oh my God, I almost started crying.
Wasn't that beautiful? Wasn't that? It was a.
whole thing.
We are lucky for that year. We are lucky for this year.
Yes.
And we're very lucky for that spirit there. That was beautiful. That's such heart. I agree. The word can transform. When the word is just and righteous. Yes. Just like you get harm when it's in the way. Albert, do you have a flyer for that event?
No, but.
So it's next Saturday,
Yeah,
coming
give me your
Saturday?
email address and I will send you.
Oh, please do. You should have, let me give you my card. You got my card? Oh, let me give you my, because that's my email on it. Send me that. Yeah, because that makes it easier.
No,
See?
that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, see.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, that also is
Looking
my
dapper
blog.
as always.
Well, you know, it's all theater. You know, that's art, the arts, a big part of arts is theater. As a filmmaker, you know what I'm saying? You gotta do the thing, you do the part. Well, it was nice seeing you, and I'll look for you. I'm gonna try to make it to your event. You know, and I'm pretty good about keeping my calendar.
I know.
So, and I've got it, oh, you're gonna email me.
I
That's
will email you.
Well,
Yes.
I've already got your book, young man.
If anyone would like a flyer to my event.
Well, there's a lot more there you would need to do than exterior.
It shuts off. There's no way I have to shut it. I will love it. I still got a photo of you. I know how you make photos, but I still got it.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Oh,
Please do.
we can-
Well,
No,
I'm glad to
no,
see
no,
you showed up.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure. Enjoyed your work.
Jim, well, let me give you some love too. Here, it's a real. I enjoy you very much. You know that.
Oh my goodness.
You have one of those.
Thank you.
Merry
Christmas. Thank you, Chris.
Put that in there. The picture from my travels.
Oh, yeah.
Went and saw the pyramids last month.
You went and saw the pyramids?
Merry Christmas.
See you next year.